Okay.
Welcome back to the classroom. We're here for Harmony BOM, and I've kind of fused together months 8 and 9. On the bulletin board, I'd like to show you what we've progressed so far for those of you who are going to be doing quilt as you go. Even if you're not, we have to come up with the same kind of figures. Right now, this star is basted and ready for me to quilt. And according to Nancy, it should be 51.5 inches square. Don't try working on that yourself. Let me help you with it when you come to class. The other two things I have put up here this is the side border here and the side border here, which we did in class this last month. If you couldn't make it, I'm going to help you out with some pointers today. And in February, we should be doing this one on the top and this one on the bottom, which also includes a pieced area as well. So these three sections right now are ready for me to quilt, and then I'll be putting them together. I'll do the sides first, and then I'll do the top and bottom, and then we'll be ready for the outside border. So we actually are almost coming to the end of this. It's taken quite a while, thanks to COVID, but hopefully we're back on. So this month's lesson is continuing the blocked piece borders. I had a problem with my blocked piece borders when I was using Nancy's recipe. Basically what we're doing are on-point blocks, and so we're adding nothing but triangles, either large ones like this, or up in the corner we're doing small ones like this. On an on-point quilt, normally what happens, and happy birthday Mr. Lincoln, next Friday's his birthday. On an on-point quilt, here's on-point blocks here. Notice that there's the same size square. So if this is like 2 inches, we cut this one 2 inches, and we know how to match them to make them fit. That I had a problem with when I went to do Nancy's first border. I just told you that the star needed to be 51.5 inches when we're done piecing it. Likewise, this side panel right here with 4 on-point blocks is also supposed to be 51.5 inches long, so that it nestles sweetly to that after I've quilted it. When I quilted my first one, or when I pieced my first one and took a measurement of it, it was 48 inches. We can ease like a 1/2 inch or maybe a little less, but we can't ease 2.5 inches. So once I figured it out, we're not adding squares to squares like we were if we were doing an on-point quilt like Mr. Lincoln's little quilt. All we're doing is adding either large triangles to 2 sides, or we're adding a corner to the top and the bottom, 2 of those. So she tells you to cut 15-inch square and slice it on both diagonals, and that's where you get these triangles from. And she also tells you that they are oversized. These little fellows up here are the corner triangles. They are 7 3/4 inch cut square, sliced on one diagonal, and they go in the top and bottom corners. So there's only 4 little ones per panel, and then there's lots of these big fellas. Well, if these were exactly 9.5 or exactly fitted, then it would be a little bit easier to equal 51. But if you've got a block, and all of us did, everyone that was in January's class, pretty much not every single block that you did was exactly 9.5. If you've got a block that's 9 3/8 or a block that's 9 1/4, that's fine. We can make them work. If you bring me a block that's only 9 inches, that's a dwarf, and that's not going to be able to fit into the scheme of things. So what I did with my blocks, and that's the one thing I ask you to do, is to measure your blocks and try to refrain from doing any squaring up, because most of that I don't think has been necessary for anybody. But some of my blocks were 9.5, some of my blocks were 9 3/8, some of my blocks were 9 1/4. The ones that we paper pieced, okay, should easily be 9.5. So at any rate, you're trying to feed these little blocks into these wide triangles that are oversized. So you don't have an exact figure out here at 9.5 where this fellow is supposed to meet. So if you look at this fellow right here, here's the triangle that's supposed to be set into him. What I had to do was take my 9.5 inch ruler and put a little tick mark right out here, okay, at 9.5. And when I put this triangle to the top, I had to make it fit. Well, I made it fit, okay, and there it is. There's my little tick mark. But you'll notice, and this one's pretty good, but a lot of the time, if my block was smaller, I had more fabric here than here, and then I would have to ease it to make it fit. Now, if you just plain took these and sewed that down like Nancy wanted you to, my tick mark is way out there, and consequently, this whole system gets smaller. So, once again, you need to take your 9.5-inch ruler and set it on a triangle that's going to get put to a block, and take it out and put a mark on the 9.5. Put the end of the block at 9.5, and then ease in that little extra bit, okay, so that you have a 9.5-inch square up ruler. Seam on there. Okay, in the little corners, I took my 7 3/4-inch square and I cut myself a little template for half of it, because that's what these are. And so I put little tick marks for 9.5, and then I moved the little tick marks to my square here. And again, there's only 4 of them. So when I measured at 9.5 and I put my block up to it, see what happened to this block? Again, this block was a wee bit smaller. But look what happens here. When you just pull on this, okay, pin it nicely, pull on it, you can make it fit, okay? So, the handout that I passed out summarizes this, because this was what was causing the problem. If you have a smaller block in here, it's going to make a smaller hole, ending up when you finish it, it's only going to be whatever happens to be right from here to here. So the girls this time, what I had them do is take their ruler. Once they put a couple together, you should be able to see on your ruler 12 3/4 inches point to point. On my first one that I had to take apart and do over again, sometimes I was only seeing like 12 inches on there. And it makes total sense. 12, 12, 12 is going to be ended up being a shorter configuration. Now once you use this formula on the first one, it's good to go for the next one on the other side. Okay, and then we trim this one up so we have our exact 1/4-inch seam allowance. And then this fellow from here to here should be 51.5 inches or thereabouts. Remember, we're using cotton, and cotton is our friend. So if you lay it down, and you need to take it a little bit longer, but we need to be able to fit a 51.5-inch star. Now, the other thing that gets added to and helps is this fella called a coping strip. On the one that's on the board, there's a coping strip on this side. This fella's going on the other side, and his coping strip will be going down here. Cut this fellow 51.5 inches and make him fit going down this side. And you've got a perfect side panel for the other side of the quilt. Okay, talking about the top and bottom, Nancy tells you she wants those 80.5 inches. And there are 6 squares that go together on point. Same process. Use the same triangle process with that. And that's what we're doing in class this month. And I told the girls it's up to them if they want to go ahead and start piecing together one of these. Nancy tells you to cut 82.5-inch squares. I wasn't about to do that. I don't have time to do that. So I actually cut strip a 2.5-inch from my fat quarters that I had left over from my blocks. I cut a strip, and I cut my background strip, and then I cut them into 2.5-inch, and I teamed them up together. So you'll see this little team works together, this little team works together. These are similar fellas, and right down here, it starts to repeat over again. There's the repeat. We put 40 of those together because I sew back to 2. You get 80.5. Now they also get a little coping strip on the side. If you cut that make it 80.5, put 2 strips together and measure it. That will also help these so that they measure 80.5 inches to go on the top and the bottom. I believe that's basically it. So we're working in month 8 and month 9, and any questions, please feel free to call. We will be working in sit and sews in February, and I might even be sticking in a couple of UFOs where you could come. Okay, so stay safe, stay warm, and I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.